Hey, this is Jack, and this video is called Help, I'm in Love with a Married Man. Hey, my name's Jack Butler, I'm a relationship coach, and if you're new to the channel, you haven't yet subscribed, I want to invite you to subscribe. I release at least 2 new videos, sometimes many more each week, on relationships and personal growth, and this is real personal development. This isn't gimmicks, tips, and tricks. This is real personal development for real adults that want to deep dive into their own inner work and become more loving, more whole, and more free. So if any of that's of interest to you, boom, hit subscribe. Tap that bell notification and you can be part of hearing of new videos as soon as they come out. All right, let's get into today's topic. If this is your experience either now or in the past, I want to say, hey, I feel for you, because I know that this territory is difficult. I know it can also bring a lot of shame and self-judgment, and perhaps if you've shared it with other people, judgment from other people. It can also create confusion and doubt, and it can kind of just be a really disorienting experience. So if you've experienced all or any of that, I'm with you, and I see you, and I want to help you in this video. And the way I'm going to help you in this video is I'm going to try and tell it to you gently, but as it is, based upon hours of coaching I've done in this territory. So let's just make it really simple. If the help that you need is to know whether this guy is actually going to be with you one day, time will tell you that. Right? At some point there's going to be an answer to this. Either he is or he isn't going to leave his wife. And what I want to encourage you to do in the meantime is actually to take a real step back from the connection, to give him the space to figure it out. What is difficult in this territory, in my experience, is that there's a lot of false promises that get promulgated. Right? There's a lot of times guys saying, oh, I love you, yeah, I'm going to leave her, I can't do it right now, my kid's about to go to college, or it's not the right time, or we couldn't pay the mortgage. There's kind of like a bunch of reasons why he couldn't leave his wife. But what it may be obscuring is that he's actually not clear that he is going to leave his wife, and just probabilistically, to lay it down, most of the times that I've seen this situation, he doesn't actually leave his wife. And let's take a big step back from the whole thing, right? You trusting that someone's your guy is that they can come to you in right timing, right? So this is a difficult situation, but love triangles do sometimes happen. Maybe ideally you wouldn't have gotten into this, but okay, you have. So let's be with it. So the being with it is realizing that he has a choice to make, and that while you continue to be an available option to him, he does not have to make his choice, right? He can basically proverbially have his cake and eat it. Although if you're a married guy and you're having an affair, at some level you're not having your cake and eat it, because you know that you're not really in integrity with your wife, right? So for him to be in integrity, he has to come to a choice. And for you to facilitate his coming to a choice, you want to be outside of the day-to-day of his life. Right? So you will probably benefit from going no contact, communicating to him that that's what you're doing, and that if at some point in the future he has actually made the decision and has left his wife, that you would be willing to hear from him. Right? But until then, you're going to go live your life, and he's got to go figure his stuff out, and he needs to go honor his wife. Right? Even if they have a terrible relationship, there's something there that he needs to go figure out. Either he needs to repair it and mend it and work on it, or he needs to leave it, and he needs to leave it not actually because he wants to be with you. He needs to leave it because that's the right thing for him to do. Sometimes in that situation, and I get it, the guy wants the guarantee that he's going to leave the one relationship and he's going to be with you. But I actually think it's better to have some fallowness in there. That if he's going to leave that relationship, of course there can be push and pull factors that go into that, but that you guys don't really know who you are, because when a guy's having an affair, oftentimes, why is he doing that really? He's doing it because there's a part of him or parts of him that are dormant in his current relationship, and you might be bringing them alive, right? So in some ways, your role as the person he's having an affair with is that you're bringing him alive in certain ways that he can't in his marriage, right? Now, is that because he really wants to be with you, or is that because he's reclaiming himself? Right? Said differently, if he could bring those parts of himself into his marriage, would he still want to be with you? And that's very hard for him to actually know. The best way to know is that he has to go figure it out and be a man and work that out. And you can't be making that decision for him. And he doesn't need to have the certainty that he's going to be in relationship with you, because that can sometimes be a false certainty, right? Sometimes when the current context dissolves, who knows what he's actually available for. Now, you may also be, if this is happening for you, you may also be with a bit of a talker, right? The false promise guy. Yeah, I'm going to be with you. Yeah, next week, next month. Oh, one day. Oh, you're the best. You're this, you're that. And it's difficult. A guy shouldn't be engaging in this, right? If we look at the marriage situation, right? He shouldn't be doing it. But if he is doing it, there might be some genuine feelings that are coming up for him where he's like, yeah, you are awesome. I do love you. You do bring me alive. Oh, you do all these things that I don't get from my wife, right? Because you have a very different contract. Because why? You're a lover. You're not his partner, right? So you can show up with all the yumminess that comes from not having the nitty-gritty, the day-to-day, the dark and the light, the lack of freedom, the constraint, the years of history, abuse, whatever it is that's gone down in that relationship. He doesn't have that with you. So it's much easier to be excited about it, right? It's probably sexually exciting. It's also probably exciting because it's illicit, right? So there's so many things that go into this that aren't actually to do with whether he's your guy and wants to be with you, right? In some ways, most often what I see is you're playing a role in his life. And the role you're playing is, let me help you reclaim the parts of yourself that you've lost. And that's a different thing than you and I are a good choice of long-term compatibility partners. And you're only really going to find that out if you have an opportunity to pursue the relationship outside of what's actually happening, that he actually dissolves his marriage, that he does that and he moves on, and then you see what's there. And if you really do that, you don't have any guarantees. So I'm trying to bring a dose of sobriety. In most situations, what you really need, rather than help, I'm in love with a married man, what would it take for him to come be with me? It's actually help, I'm in love with a married man, what would it take for me to downshift the connection and go no contact and trust that if he's really my guy, he will figure it out and there will be a future. But I don't need to keep him in my life in this dynamic in order to know that. And you might think, well, if I go away, then maybe he'll just stay with his wife. Okay, well then he wasn't your guy. Right? Like if he can't really figure that out, if he's not really clear that, yeah, okay, this is really bad, I wish this hadn't happened, but I've got to go and fess up and dissolve my relationship with my wife. If he can't do that in order to be with you, he's not your guy, right? He's not your guy. So part of this is sometimes a little bit of the sober objective truth, is that there's a really simple scenario. Not saying it's easy, but it's simple. The simple scenario is he dissolves what he's in, and at one day he's available and he shows up for a relationship with you. Everything else isn't that. Everything else is talk, noise, possibility, could be you offering him a role to reclaim something of himself. And you might be willing to do that, but where are you in that equation, right? If you're doing that, that's a very sacrificial kind of love, and there might be something beautiful about that, but it's also probably a love that's dishonoring of your own authenticity, which is you actually want a guy that can be your guy, right? You don't want to be a starling, you don't want to go after someone else's guy, you want a guy that's going to be your guy. And if this guy isn't going to do that for you, why are you wasting your precious time and energy at one level, right? Again, that's a little bit of tough love, but like you're precious, valuable. There's probably a guy that really wants to be with you, not just talk about it, actually be with you. Right? And it doesn't make a guy a better guy that he's, got his wife and that he's having, an affair on the side. That's eroding at his own integrity as a guy. So that's not good. So what would it take for him actually to step into something meaningful with you? It normally takes you really going no contact from a place of love, not from a place of FU, from a place of love that, hey, I'm actually going to honor your relationship and your wife. You guys have got something that you got to figure out. You got to go figure that out. Don't make me the reason. If you guys have got a marriage that's worth pursuing, pursue it. If it's not, bring it to its conclusion. But kind of like be a man in that. Like let people know where you stand. And if at some point you've actually dissolved that, not just, we have a date in court 12 months from now, because that's still not really resolved. He's going to need time to grieve. He's going to need time to let it go. He's going to need time to reorganize his sense of self. So I'm talking about not just we might separate. I'm talking about we definitively either have done that process or that we're very far in that process and our lives are very meaningfully separated, that at that point you would be willing to take a call from him. But until then, and even if that's happening, you're living your life, right? You're not going to be waiting by the phone. You've actually got to drop the contact and move on. And I know that can be hard because you're like, but I don't know, could he come back? This is your spiritual practice, right? As hard as that may be, this is your practice, is to actually let go and let life arrange it for you. If life brings you back together, so be it. But until life does that, why don't you go live your life? Focus on what it is that you want. Because part of what the attraction to this guy may have been, it could be that you have a deep soul connection that's possible. Oftentimes, it's not quite as complex as that. It's that you're also attracted to unavailability. And you're not taking your own seat fully in your life saying, hey, I'm in my queen and I want a king. Right? I don't want a jester. I don't want a bit player. I don't want a cameo role. I don't want someone else's guy. I want my guy, my king, to show up for me. And anything that's not that is not that. And I'm actually going to take that stand from a place of love for me and anyone that wants to be in a relationship with me, that I want a full enchilada, whole-blown, full-blooded, real deal, authentic relationship. So I'm not going to be settling for scraps. I'm not going to be settling for half of a guy's attention. I want a guy's full attention in the relationship. I want him to be present to me. I don't want to have half excuses, half-baked promises, one-day maybes. I don't want that. I want here, now, real, by my side. When I'm upset on Saturday night, I want to know that you can come be with me, not that you have to think about whether you're going to be with me or with your wife, right? That's actually taking a stand for you. Is there something in you that's attracted to that unavailability? Now, you don't get to control always love triangles. Sometimes they happen, right? Sometimes it's like, wow, yep, sorry, this person's with someone, but we have a real thing. That might be true. That doesn't mean that you need to start a relationship with that person, right? As hard as that may be, or even if you've already done that, you can take a step back from that and say, hey, this is unfortunate. Maybe this is going to resolve itself in the fullness of time. But it doesn't resolve itself by us continuing to have an affair. It resolves itself by me holding a line, downshifting, going no contact, and giving him the opportunity to be a man and make a decision. What's your decision? Where do you stand? And that's going to be really hard for him. I don't envy him that situation. But he got himself into it, so to speak, right? Even if it's unfortunate, life circumstances, whatever, he's got to deal with that. He doesn't deal with it by continually making half promises to you that one day he's going to be with you. So a lot of people, when they come to me with this situation, they talk as if this is very confusing. I think it's hard, but I don't actually think it's that confusing, right? It's not confusing because there's a very simple way that in the future you guys could be together, and everything else is just kind of conjecture, hearsay, or possibility. And mostly, unfortunately, depending on how you look at it from your side, I don't see it happening. I don't see the guy actually does that he says, you know what, boom, I'm going to take a year and fully dissolve my marriage. He doesn't do that. So if he's not going to step up and do for that, is he really going to be able to protect you, provide for you, be present to you? He's not your guy, right? You don't get to just have a guy on loan, right? If you really want a guy, he's got to show up and be your guy. So let him figure that out. And you might say, well, he's going to miss me so much, or he needs me. No, stop that. If he needs you that badly, he's going to figure out how to rearrange his current circumstances so he can actually be with you, right? If he needs something else outside of his marriage, let him find a healer, a therapist, or a call girl, or someone that he can not break their heart, right? You're actually going to be trying to create a love relationship with him, and you're trying to create a love relationship with an unavailable guy. Right? That's just the essence of this from your side. You are trying to create a love relationship with an unavailable guy, possibly so that at some level you can continue to confirm to yourself that guys are unavailable or that you don't deserve an available guy. Right? I don't know what's the true story from your side, but there's something like that sometimes, right? That you are just using this as, I don't actually have to figure out how to be with an available guy, right? Or perhaps the available guys, you know what, they're boring, or I don't feel attracted to them. And you might be misunderstanding attraction. Of course, there's a kind of attraction to the thing you can never have, right? The ultimate frustration love object, of course. But that's not going to get you what you really want, which is like a committed love relationship. So you can be in fantasy about the thing you can never have, or you can drop down into reality and start doing the harder work of learning how to love that thing that is available. And it might feel strange to you. It might rewire you. You might have to drop your understanding of attraction. Or you might notice, oh, there's this thing that I'm always attracted to, right? Which could be the same thing as donuts or crack cocaine. I might always have an attraction to it. Doesn't mean I need to engage in it. Doesn't mean I need to imagine that donuts are a healthy diet. Doesn't mean I need to imagine that crack cocaine is the solution to the boredom and frustration of being a human being. Right? We can dig deeper and say, hey, what would it take for me actually to be in relationship with an available guy? It would take me having to realize that boredom isn't a reason to end a relationship, that boredom is my own spiritual practice, and that as I deepen my relationship with reality, boredom will start to go out the window. Because if you're fully attuned and present to life in moment-to-moment way, life is rarely boring. Or if it is, you have a capacity to be with it. Of course, if you're going to be with someone long-term, there's going to be days, moments, weeks that are boring. That might just be part of it. But why don't you let that be a call to your own wakefulness rather than oh yeah, I got to unplug from this and now I've got to attract the next unavailable guy. Help, he's married. Oh, I'm still going to be in a relationship with him anyway. Now, I might be sounding like I'm trivializing. You might be like, hey, Jack, you're kind of missing me because this is real. I really love this guy. We have a very special connection. And that might be true. But it might be that if he were available to you, part of what's special about your connection at the moment, because it's built on illicitness and you discovering parts in him that have fallen fallow in his marriage, if that weren't true, you might find that it's also got some boredom, right? Two people over a period of time are going to have some boredom and frustration, some limitations, some conflict. Just the realness, the soup and nuts, the bread and butter, the broccoli and bacon, sorry if you're vegan, but of being in relationship. You don't get to get around that by just being a spark that's looking for the next spark, the next hit, the next high, the next unavailability, right? I'm kind of drilling down on this for you because this, I think, is the path of your real freedom. Right? This is important stuff. If you've been stuck in a frustrated pattern of relationship just gets boring, or the guy that's unavailable, that's super zingy, right? Because maybe dad was really unavailable to you back in the day, right? But actual availability, oh, now I don't really get to do push and pull with that. Like, this is helping you clear up some of your own internal dynamics. You don't necessarily want a relationship that's going to be like this all the time, right? That might be exciting to your nervous system, just like if you're a rat and I feed you intermittently, you're going to get excited and arrested by that. But that's not really the fullness of a real live relationship, right? That there's something actually to be said about commitment, stability, togetherness, we space, knownness, right? Not just the push and pull and the fantasy and the illusion and the delusion and the unavailability, right? Yes, that can arrest your nervous system, but you are here to love more than having a hijacked nervous system. You might want to learn what it's like to love when you don't have a hijacked nervous system and see what kind of capacities can come online then. So all of this, to say this can be your awakefulness. This can be your spiritual realization. You might just think of this as a crappy, shitty circumstance that you're in. How come the guy who's my guy happens to have his wife, who, by the way, probably, it doesn't see him, is boring, is, hurting him, and, probably is not getting a good rap in your view. Maybe she is, but often I hear the bad things about the wife, and what I don't hear is the whole context. But these guys have a natural relationship that they've been doing for years together. That's so much harder than being a lover. Being a lover is light and free and romantic and heady, and we're falling in and, oh, what could be? But we don't actually have any commitments or agreements. So we're kind of free to each other just to be in this moment. Yeah, yummy, lovely. Oh, now you get to go away. Now I don't know if you're coming back. Maybe you're going to leave your wife. Maybe that's arresting to my nervous system. I mean, there's so much intoxication that happens in that space that is different than what's going to happen if this guy actually shows up on your doorstep and says, hey, let's do this. And what is the actual likelihood that he's going to do that? And probabilistically, in gross generalization from the stuff I've seen, we're talking sub 10% likelihood, right? I've seen so many more cases. I don't actually think, I'm thinking of this. I know of people where a guy has, left his wife to be with someone else, but they're not the people I've coached. The people I've coached in this territory, he's not. And he's kind of treating them as like this casual option. And they're somehow participating in it. So the last thing I want to leave you with is you're not a victim of this circumstance. You are a participant and co-creator in it. If you want to end it, you can. It might be devastatingly, arrestingly difficult, and it might be exactly what you need to do for the long term. You don't need to believe his half-lies and half-baked promises. You can start to sober up and notice, talk is cheap. He can say all sorts of things. You know what is expensive is you actually leaving your wife, figuring it up, man up, get a backbone, make your stand, take your decision. That's hard. Keeping me as a casual love option, that's kind of easy in some ways. You don't have to make a stand for me. I'm just this kind of ongoing option to you. So why are you participating in that? Why are you programming your subconscious with, well, I don't really value myself and matter myself enough that I want the full attention of a guy, right? That is the direction of inquiry that I want you to be in. Downshift, go no contact with him. Let him figure his life out. You're not his confidant. You're not his healer. You're not his, business strategist. Let him figure his life out. And if he wants to knock on your door one day, I'll give you the call and say, hey, 6 months ago I divorced my wife, we're completely done. So be it. But no, most of the time that's not going to happen. So you actually need to sober up and just use this as your own path of inner work. This could be the best thing that happened to you because it's the thing that finally trips you out of this pattern of unavailable men. The guy might not even be married, right? You can take it out of married man. Help, I'm with a taken guy. I'm with a guy who is someone else's guy, who has made a commitment to someone else, but I'm still in the mix. Being casual, being an option, love, pull, push, could it be, big fantasy, lack of sobriety, lack of objectivity, lack of truth, lack of backbone. Why is that what you want to participate in? And I'm laying it on here, partly because I've just seen how much pain people go through. I've coached people for weeks and weeks in this territory, and they are on the end of the string of this guy. Oh, maybe I'm going to see you this week. Oh, maybe I'm going to see you. No, actually, no. The wife says I've got to be with the kids. Right? It's so much. I love sport. I used to play football, soccer a lot. It's like you guys aren't even able to compete on the pitch together fully. You don't have the opportunity. You don't have the runway to have a real thing. You've got to say to this guy, I want runway. If you want to be with me, I want runway. I want an actual relationship that, like a flight, can take off. And if it can't ever take off, I'm going to be stopped doing this. I'm going to be a no to this. If you really loved me, why would you be in this with me? If you really loved me in the way that you want to be my man and make a commitment, why are you treating me like an option that's casual? Why aren't you figuring this out with your wife? Right? You might have to bring in a little bit more of your authentic anger to kind of say, hey man, what are you doing? I'm a human with a precious heart. I'm in love with you. I want to be with you. Why aren't you figuring your life out? Why are you just treating me like this? But the way that you reclaim your power in that situation is for you to take that back. If he's not doing that for you, if he's not in a situation where he can really look out for you, which, by the way, most of the time he can't. He probably hasn't even got enough energy and attention to figure out his marriage and his family, let alone also figure out with you. So then you have to step into your own power there and say, hey, I know this is difficult. I wish it were different, but this is where we're at. I'm taking my stand. In a loving way, I'm going to let this go because this isn't honoring you, it isn't honoring me, it isn't honoring your wife, it's honoring no one fully. Why don't we start honoring people fully, engage in the difficult conversations and the unwinding if that's what needs to happen, and then we'll see what's here. And if he can't do that, he's not your guy. All right, I hope this has been helpful. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Just hit the subscribe button, tap the bell notification so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. I'm Jack Butler. Questions and comments below the video, as always, I super appreciate them. I always read them and I answer as many as I can, so please do that. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.